Hello, everybody. Are you working hard? I'm hardly working, and today I kind of lied. Okay, technically I lied last week. So, at the end of my Infinity War discussion, I mentioned that I wanted to talk about more Marvel movies, but over the last week I've had a chance to think about it, and I've decided that doing too many Marvel movies week to week to week is going to burn it out and I think kind of kill me and other people's interest in it. So instead, I'm going to do the next best thing and do them every other week. So next week, I'll talk about the first Iron Man and then try to talk about them in the order of their release in the cinematic universe. Obviously, I'll jump around that if I'm not finished by the time Ant-Man and Wasp comes out, which I assume I won't be. We'll just see what happens from there. So that being said, today I want to talk about Ready Player One because I've really only talked about movies that I had a really good time with or mostly enjoyed, I think. And I didn't dislike Ready Player One. And here's where I'm probably going to lose some people is because I didn't like certain choices that were made different from the book. And I feel ridiculous talking about it this way because I do have an opinion when it comes to comic book movies where it's all right that they differ, but the reason why I've gotten that opinion is because even in the comic books, it's established that there are multiple universes, and so I just imagine what's going on in the movies is a separate but similar universe where characters are going to have similar powers or similar storylines, but things are different, and so that's why I don't get to see all the stuff that I want to see because it's not the same universe. And if I really want to see it, I can just pick up a comic book and read it, right? I feel differently about books being turned into movies because there's no establishment of multiple universes, and I feel like you're selling the wrong story. Because to me, the point of a movie based on a book should be one of two reasons, and honestly, both reasons. One is to reward the people who have been fans of the book, who have funded the project and shown that it's popular by turning it into something that they can see the vision in front of them, right? So instead of just being locked in their head, there it is, moving picture. It's another medium, but it's the same story that they fell in love with. That's a great thing. The other reason is to get people to watch the movie and decide, that was really cool. I want to read the book, because anyone who's read a book and seen a movie based on it knows that the book has more information because you can get inside a character's head better. That's just a fact. So the way that I see it, because of that, it's really important to follow the source material. I think that's what bothers me about comic book movies is just that you get people who think that that's the story and they talk about the characters like that's what's happening. I've done it, so I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I'm frustrated at myself when it happens too, because it's like I want to know the source material better and I want to trust that the stories I'm seeing are truthful to it. But when they're not, and they sell me this idea of, oh man, this is such a great character, they're so cool, and it's like, well, actually, if you wanted to read anything with them, they're a completely different person, and none of that happens. It's all heartbreaking. So that's like the general feeling I have for Ready Player One. Is it kind of changed a lot. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I don't remember much of the second or third trials from the book. I pretty much just remember the first one because it was something that really connected with me. I think, well, okay, no, that's not true. I remember the second one now. The second one in the book was Zork. And I unless the third one was going to the home the big fight took place in, I don't exactly remember. I thought that was where they went after the third trial with the three keys. The first trial in the book was it was Dungeons and Dragons. And I really cared about that because I played Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, oh, I'm going to love this book. His first big adventure, he's got to go. Not to mention, he's going to school in the books, right? Like, that's why he has equipment. He's too poor to afford it himself. He gets equipment from the school system. He had to apply and get entered into getting schooled through the Oasis. That was a whole thing that he talked about. And none of that happens in the movie. And they just kind of like, oh, he's going to have this little joke why his aunt's husband, boyfriend, it's not really established well in the movie what their relationship is, hates him. And it's because he stole the gloves, and taking those gloves, that ruined his chance of winning. Where his three friends, where he only had one really good friend in the book, and he met the other two later. my point is that they changed the characters and the relationships, and they instead of having it be Dungeons and Dragons and then Joust, which I thought was adorable because I played Animal Crossing as a kid, and Joust was one of the Nintendo games I got inside the game, and that's where I found Joust for the first time, and I fell in love with it. And I'm not great at it, but it is fun, and it was really, I was looking forward to seeing all of that happen, and they cut it for a big Spielberg jizz fest all over, all over was basically what I saw. He wasn't wrong to do it. You know, he had the power to bring in all kinds of different memorabilia from things either he's worked on or friends of his have worked on or whatever. And it really shows the life that he's had. And I think that's interesting. But this wasn't Spielberg's story, you know? That the writers write the stories. Directors just make it come alive. But completely changing it to fit your own narrative kind of defeats the purpose of there even having been a story beforehand, you know? Spielberg might as well have just written his own movie, as far as I'm concerned. And so I didn't really like the first trial. I mean, I did. It was really cool. But because it wasn't what it was supposed to be, and the solution to it ended up being so obvious, the fact that nobody had ever tried it, like, I don't know. You think I'm the sort of person who gets frustrated and just drives backwards to see what's there, you know? And it didn't really look like he had to be going backwards for it to open. It looked like it just opened anytime you went. So I don't know. The second trial was, again, interesting, but I wish it was Zork because that would have been a really cool thing to see. And the third one being the final battle as well. Again, I don't remember that being how it went, but it could have been. I don't like how the quarter happened for a couple of reasons. One, I really liked that he had to beat a high score to get it. That there was a classic, you know, this quarter is on the machine, like I've got next game situation. I thought that was great. And then in the movie, they decided to make it a nod and a wink. And it's like, but the character that was giving him the quarter existed in the book. Not the physical character that you saw there, but the character it turns out it was, who never made it into the movie except for that, which was upsetting because he had a big part in what was going on. He had offered them refuge at the end of for the big fight, and it was a whole thing. It was really cool. And they just kind of skipped over it entirely. And I don't know, I don't like that they made it about the creator and his friend's wife more than it was about two guys being friends, you know? I don't know. I don't like that they changed that part of the narrative. And honestly, all of that I can breeze past because like I said, while it's different and I don't love the change, what they changed it with wasn't terrible. You know, there was cool visual, there was interesting stuff going on. I understand apparently Spielberg really liked Kubrick's what's the movie that the second trial was based on? I'm sorry, I've never actually seen The Shining. Look at that. I had to apologize for it to remember the title. He really liked The Shining, apparently. This is what I read. He really liked The Shining, and so he put it in there as sort of a, you know, hey, I really liked what you did. I want to honor it with this film. And it's like, that's cool. You know, again, it's not what I want, but it wasn't bad. But the way they handled how the Oasis worked was bad. Now, I could be wrong. It's entirely possible that what they did is how it was intended to be from the way it was written. But to me, the idea of the Oasis was kind of like if you've ever seen Sword Art Online, where you log in and basically your consciousness takes over. Like your physical hands might move in order to touch things and stuff, and he ends up with a suit that gives his body feeling, but I never saw it as like a screen in front of your eyes. You know, that feels way too limiting to be staring at a screen. And the way that it looked in the movie, I don't know, it almost looked like they were like capable of seeing through what was going on, and it made what was happening in the Oasis look cooler than what was apparently really happening. Because when they zoom out and they show the characters in their physical bodies having to move around, by the way, which was ridiculous, because I distinctly recall being shown or told, at least in the book, that the main character was constantly sitting, and I thought that his treadmill wasn't so much on the ground as it was like foot level, where he could sit and just kind of run his legs in place in order to charge the battery. Was, I thought, the process of it, not the point of it, not to get a little bit of exercise to justify his character being in more shape than he should have been. I don't know. There's parts of that that are like, and then Artemis didn't look like Artemis, because as I remember in the book, Artemis looked mostly like herself, but without the birth defect on her face, and that was, clearly not the case in the movie. But no, the only real issue I have, all the other things are so minor and I can look past them because the movie was pretty cool. I didn't like the way the Oasis was handled. It was nothing like what I wanted or thought it should have been or could have been. And again, I could have been wrong, but that's the thing about books, is we kind of get our own visions of what's going on. A friend of mine likes to talk about death of the author a lot, where I've never looked into this term, so I'm just basing this off of what he's told me, but the idea as he's said it to me is once a writer has put out a story, it's the people's story now. You can't go back and change things. You can't retroactively, you can't retcon the story to fit the narrative that you wish it had been before you put it out there. You have to just accept that the people are going to read it and they're going to interpret it how they interpret it, and that's it. That's what's happening. And I could discuss a lot more about that, but I think that that's something I'd rather do if I can ever figure out a way to have more than just me in a video and invite him to talk about it too, because he and I have some opinions about some stories that some authors just won't let go. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video was to talk about Ready Player One, and I think I kind of talked about everything that I really feel needed to be said. So I'll see you guys next week when I talk about Iron Man. Looking forward to that. Take care, everybody.